Okay, guys, this is the beginning of chapter 6, 6.1. This is going to be the intro to roots, square roots, cube roots, fourth roots, any type of root. Okay, um, here's what we're going to talk about here, just things that you should know. A lot of this you're going to use your calculator for. I'll show you that here in a second. But you got to get some general knowledge here to start with. Okay, first of all, know that all even roots have two answers. Okay, and the easiest explanation for that is like when we say, what is the square root of 4? Of course, the square root of 4 can be 2 and also negative 2, because 2 times 2 equals 4, and negative 2 times negative 2 also equals 4. Okay, again, that same thing would hold true if it was, for instance, the fourth root of 16. Okay, now I don't think that you're going to have all of your higher roots memorized like you do with square roots. So let me show you where that button is on your calculator really fast. Anytime that you want to do a root that is higher than 2, so if I want to do the fourth root, the first thing I do is I hit that number in my calculator, what root it is, which is 4. Okay, sorry, side note. Fourth root means what number times itself 4 times gives me 16, right? Okay. Square root is what number times itself twice. Okay, if we do the cube root of something, that of course is what number times itself 3 times gives you that number that's underneath the root. So for instance, the cube root of 8 is of course 2. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. Okay, so if I want to do the fourth root of 16 in my calculator, I first type the root number, which in this case is a 4. Okay, I hit the 4. Then I go to math, and I scroll down here to option number 5, which has an X as the root number. Okay, when I hit enter, all of a sudden, boom, that 4 has now become my root number. Okay, and now I can type in 16, of course, and it tells me that the answer is 2. But all even roots have two answers. So the answer is 2 and negative 2. All even roots have two answers. Okay. Now, odd roots, they do not have two answers. The reason for that is, for instance, the cube root of 8 is 2. Well, that's because 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. It is not true that it's negative 2 as well, because negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2, negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4, times negative 2 again is negative 8. This is why negative 2 is not the cube root of 8, because it's actual negative 2 times itself 3 times is negative 8. Okay, again, if I wanted to do that, if I want to do the cube root of 8, I would first hit 3, because that's the root number. I would go to math. I would scroll down there to option 5. The 3 now becomes the root number. I type in my 8. I hit enter. Okay. So they're going to ask you a bunch of those things. Like they sometimes ask weird ones. Like they might say, what is the cube root of negative 0.27? Okay, well, you might not know that off the top of your head. So just type it in. Know that odd roots have one answer. So I'm not going to say positive or negative. I'm just going to type this in. So again, I would hit my 3. I would go to math. I would scroll down again to option number 5, which has the X currently as the root number. The second I hit enter, the 3 turns into the root number. I would type negative 0.27, and it would shoot me out. Oh, that was a bad one. Man, sorry. Well, you would write that down. Okay? There'll be like whole numbers, a lot of ones on your worksheet. Sorry, I thought about that wrong. But you would just write that down if that was the question. Okay? Yeah, I think that's good. So just remember, if it's an even root, make sure you write the positive and negative of the answer. If it's an odd root, make sure you just write exactly what it gives you. Okay. Also remember that you cannot take the square root of any negative number. Okay. We're going to get away from i's. It's not going to ask you for the square root of negative 4. Okay. Next. Okay. Remember how we take the square root or cube root or fourth root or anything of variables. Okay, let's say that I wanted to have the square root of 9 x to the 5th. Okay, well, the square root of 9, of course, is 3. If I want to take it of letters, I'm asking, remember that the square root of x squared is x. So I'm really asking myself, how many x squareds are in x to the 5th? I want to think of it like this. 2, 4, and 5. So the square root of this x squared is x, the square root of this x squared is x, and there'd be 1 left. If I ask you what's the cube root of x to the 16th, I would now be thinking about how the cube root of x to the 3rd is equal to x. So I'm really now thinking how many x cubes are in x to the 16th. So I'm thinking, let's see, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, and 16. So here is 1x, 2x, 3x, 4x, 5x's, so that's x to the 5th, with a cube root of x still left in there. Okay, so always remember that. The only other thing that is in this chapter is switching back and forth between these two forms. It's what's called radical form and also what's called exponent form. Two equivalent forms are just written in a different way. Okay, so let's give you one. If I had the cube root of x to the 5th. Okay, when you're doing this, when you're to write this in exponent form, what this is going to do is it's going to make my exponent be a fraction. Okay, the exponent is the numerator, the root number is the denominator every single time. Every single time. Okay, so if I asked you maybe to start with x to the 2/7 and write that in radical form, you would write your x. The numerator would stay as your exponent. The denominator would become the root number. Okay, that's a 7, sorry. The 7th root of x squared. Those two things would be equivalent. Let's see, just make sure that you know this. If I give you something like 2x to the 2/3, you have to ask yourself, what's to the 2/3 power? The 2, the x, or both? In this case, it's just the x. So when I was writing this in radical form, the 2 is a coefficient. It's not to the 2/3 power. So the 2 just stays out in front, okay? Now, my x goes under the radical. The numerator stays as the exponent. The denominator becomes the root number. Okay? All right, that's about it. We're just kind of taking it short and easy while I'm gone still. So if you have any other questions, email me, ask Miss Barbian or Mr. Akeley, whoever's in that room with you. And when I get back, we'll make sure we shore everything up. Okay? All right. See you guys. I'll see you soon.